Hi, it's Chris Titley here, and we're on the first episode of Scoreboard for 2025, and I'm joined by Connie Chan. Connie, thank you so much for being part of this series, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, and thank you very much for having me on here.
Connie, we're sitting here on the 3rd of January of 2025, looking back at 2024 as a year. How was your year?
A little bit of up and down, I guess. There's some pretty good highs and then some pretty low lows as well. So I guess at the end of it, it was like a bit of a neutral year.
Yeah, do you want to touch on? We'll touch on the highs first up. What was so good about 2024 for you?
Moments where I had just, I guess, found the confidence that I could do certain things within my sport and that I was very capable.
Yeah, and then the lows, some of the results. I think I've seen sort of mixed results, but I mean, I don't know which ones were the more important matches, but certainly from, was it the results that was some of the lows?
Yeah, the results, and then also certain aspects where there was a fork in the road and I probably should have gone one way, but I chose to go the other way. And then, then reflecting back on it and having to take ownership of how it kind of went poorly.
And for the listeners out there that do not know of Connie Chan, do you want to describe yourself about what you do, I suppose, and where you're at in your career?
I'm a professional boxer in Australia. I've had, I think it's like 13 fights. Right now, I think I've had 5 wins and 8 losses. So, and I also started the sport rather quite late as well. So most people start, a little bit younger than I did. I started at 32. So, and I've only been doing it for about 6 years.
And the interest in boxing, it started when you were about 26, obviously. Was there any interest in boxing prior to that, or was there other sports on the agenda?
No, my background was tennis coaching. So one of my good friends, he was mad into the boxing, and he became a boxing coach. And then what he said to me one day, hey, my team's growing too big. I need a hand with coaching. So I said, I know nothing about boxing. He goes, I'll teach you the basics, and then I just want you to teach that to the beginners. I was like, yep, not a problem. And then the more I was involved in just teaching the basics and learning about it, so he would teach me the basics. I'd go home and practice it. And then I'd be like, okay, I actually know what I'm talking about. And then I went and taught it and helped him coach just the beginners. And then the more I was involved, he was really good. He allowed me to be more involved with like even the fighters and helping them get ready with like pad work and all that type of stuff. So the more I got involved, the more I enjoyed it, enjoyed the experience and the learning of something totally different to what I had experienced prior. And then I did that for maybe like a year and a half. And then I said to him, how can I be a better coach? Because there was things that he could spot that I could spot it afterwards. So in a fight situation, it's like seconds. It's milliseconds where you have to be able to spot it, yell out the instructions to the athlete so they can correct it straight away. But it was like in hindsight that I could see it. So I said, how can I improve my eye for the coaching? And he said, well, compete. That's one of the best ways. And you can actually understand and also give you more credibility among athletes. So I was like, rightio. And then, so I started training in the off season of, I think it was 2017. In the off season, I started. And then at the beginning of the year, he's like, well, there's girls that need sparring. There's not many girls in the boxing. You need sparring. So off I went and I sparred, and they go, oh, you go all right. Let's put you in for a fight. So one of the girls wanted to fight me. And mid-year 2018, I had my first fight, and I was like, oh, this is fun. And for the first 6 months, it was one of them where I was like, oh, like, cool, I got a fight. Nice. And then if I didn't get a fight, I'm like, oh, okay, that's all right. It didn't really faze me too much. And then after that, first 6 months, I went away to, was it America and Mexico for about 2 months holiday. And the whole time I was away, all I could think about was boxing. So I was like, oh, there's something in this. So best I go down this path and see what happened. And then when I came back, I was just like, all right, I want to give this a red hot crack. And then in the meantime, I had a high performance coach, and she said to me, like, what do you want out of this sport? And she always asked me in the first 6 months, and I'm like, I don't know, like, I'll just see where it takes me. And then when I was away, I had a pretty hard think about it and thought, I'm actually taking physical damage. So if I'm going to do that, for me as a person, I didn't want to do it purely as a weekend warrior or just be a participant. I didn't want to be a number in the game. I wanted to be the best that I could possibly be. And like my thoughts was just the pinnacle, which was at the time the Australian team to be selected for Olympics and Commonwealth Games in the amateur scene.
Connie, I'm interested as someone that's never competed in a boxing match before. What attracts you to that particular sport, the competitiveness, and also what goes on in sort of preparation, but then also in the ring? There's obviously lots of things that you go, I love this. This is great.
Oh, that's it's a tough one. I think the first initial, I say to a lot of people, especially the ones that are getting into the sport, and they want to get the contact part, and it is actually quite counterintuitive, right? That someone's throwing punches at you, and then you to keep your composure, not be scared, not obviously fight and flight happens. I remember probably for the first month, and it's just contact. Like I knew the conditions of the partner work was one person jabs and the other person's catching. So it's really basic. Like you can't get any simpler than that. And I remember the first time I got hit with a jab, I was like, oh, it was like a shock. And so for the first month, I had to tell myself, this is boxing. I'm going to get hit and I get to hit back. Like it was just so counterintuitive to be like, stand there and let them do it. And then also develop a bit of a counterintuitive, like stand there and catch the punches rather than trying to move away from it or like just your natural reaction. Like if anyone is out there listening and they want to test this out, it's like get a friend just to throw the hand up in front of your face without touching it. Most people's natural reaction is just to flinch or move away, and you have to try and train yourself to not do that because it's not initially helpful. So all those little things kind of brought me to like, oh, this is quite cool. Like I could expand what I know and my brain capacity to doing something that is so counterintuitive as well.
Is there like your relationship with pain, and I'm talking about physical pain? How's that gone over time?
I guess when you're in the moment, especially when you're in a competition, in a fight, you don't think about it. Like there's more pressing matters. Like they're going to keep throwing, and you've got to do your best to get out of the way. Probably one of the ones I do remember is I had a fight, and during the fight something didn't feel right, but I just kept. And I remember my coach. It was my left hand, and I remember my coach yelling out jab, jab. And usually my jab is quite strong, but I noticed like I couldn't get the strength in it, but it just didn't feel too good. And all I remember was I just adapted, and I threw the left and then threw the right straight behind it every time he yelled that jab, just to try and force the opponent back. At the end of the fight, all I remember was I'm like, oh, I'll stand so the referee, if I was to win, which I felt I'd done enough to win, would raise my right hand, not my left hand, because I just knew it was so sore. And I won, so raised my right hand, and then as soon as I went back to the change room, I was like, oh, I can't feel my left shoulder. Like I don't want to lift my arm up at all. And I tore a rotator cuff muscle. So in that regards, like when you're in the moment, adrenaline, everything's going, you probably don't feel it as much.
Yeah, wow. And do you go into a fight not even thinking about ramifications around concussions or getting knocked out or brain injuries, etc.? Is there something in the back of your mind? Is it like, no, this is I'm practiced, I'm trained. This is just this is part of the course.
Yeah, those for me, I don't think about any of that. I think it's probably not the smartest thing. I do think I'm a bit invincible. And one of the things is like they can't hurt me. Like I just think, no, you can't hurt me. Like there's no way you can't hurt me. That being said, there has been a time where I was knocked out, but not completely out. Like I got knocked down, and I don't remember much of it. But I don't ever go into fights thinking, are they going to be the one that is going to hurt me or anything like that? Like I personally think if you think like that, you're going to have a very short boxing career.
Connie, I want to go behind the scenes of a professional boxer in terms of the preparation leading into a fight. Can you talk about some of the things that you do to prepare for a fight?
Well, they usually give you a bit of a camp. Some like depending on the timing of the fights, sometimes you get 10 weeks, 8 weeks, 6 weeks. I train with my team. We train mainly all year round, so we're always ready when a fight presents themselves. Some of the things we do prep wise is obviously skill work, and then as you get a fight locked in, we dial it in a bit more to just speed, a bit sharper, a bit more accurate, and things that we are lacking, we'll work on that a little bit more. And then on the other side of that, so that's the boxing skill side, and then on the outside of that, you always do a little bit of strength and conditioning, and then you dial that back a little bit when you get tapering in for the fight. And also cardio is an important aspect of it as well.
What about the other things along the lines of sleep and nutrition and basically keeping yourself fresh and good leading up into the fight?
Definitely. The recovery side is very important. I put a lot of emphasis on recovery, especially the last month of a camp, because you're in this little bubble where you don't want anything to happen. Like, you don't want a niggle to pop in, because that ultimately can affect your performance. So I take a lot of time. I'm very blessed to be sponsored by Riggs Recovery, and they help me out heaps. And it's a recovery center on the Gold Coast, and they have got like the hot, cold magnesium pools. They've got infrared sauna. They've got a hyperbaric chamber, and they've also got like this cryotherapy as well. So if there's any niggles that ever pop up, I always head to them straight away, and they get to, they see and they're like, okay, you need to come in, once or twice a week to get this sorted, or, get in the hyperbaric chamber, especially when you're feeling a little bit low and, you feel that your immune system might be a little bit compromised. That's always very good to go into the infrared sauna and stuff like that as well.
Do you do the cold bath then the sauna, or do you do the sauna then the cold bath?
Usually I'll go sauna first. I'll do the infrared sauna, and that depends how I feel. Like, some days I'll feel great and I'll sit there for like 45 minutes. Other times I'm like, oh, you know what, I'm pressed for time. I'll do 30 minutes. And then after that, I'll jump into the hot cold pools. I probably tend to do the hot cold pools more often than the infrared sauna, only because it's less time consuming. So there's a system I jump in there. It's pretty much, you jump in there 3 minutes on, then go into the warm for 3 minutes, back to the cold, and always finish on cold. So I do that 3 cycles. If I've got a little bit more time, I'll do 4 and just finish on the cold.
Wow. Okay. That's fantastic. When you're looking at an opponent into the fight, how much time do you spend on that opponent as opposed to yourself?
I don't spend too much time on my opponent through experience, because in the past, when I have, it's kind of got the better of me. Like, I obsessed, and then, you see what they put out, and then you're like, oh no, maybe, I become very doubtful of my own preparation and everything like that. And then my mind likes to wander to the worst case scenario. And so then it just goes into an absolute turmoil. So I don't actually worry too much. It's like, I know that my team and this is the work that needs to be done. As long as everything gets checked off, I'm ready for fight.
Where do you reckon your competitive spirit has come from? Is that from an early age? You've been pretty competitive and like sort of feeling like you're invincible?
No, I don't know. I think it's just developed over time through personal experience, through life, like certain things in life. One of the biggest reasons for the boxing was there was a young athlete, Luke. He was one of the ones that I helped looked after when I was working as a boxing coach. And he was only, I think he was like 19 or 20. And he'd moved up from Newcastle to the Gold Coast to purely do boxing. And I was like, that's interesting, because I was always raised like, work hard, earn your money. And he had this concept of telling his bosses that these are the hours he wanted to work. And he didn't, and he was a barista. So Saturdays, he told no, sorry, I can't work Saturday mornings because that's when I go sparring. And when he told me this, I was like, wow, like, what made you think to do this? Like, that's so fascinating, because that's so counterintuitive to what I was taught as a child and how I, chose to live my life as an adult so far. And he said, well, you can only be an athlete once. And he dropped out of uni. And I was like, well, why did you do that? And he said to me that you're only an athlete once, and you can't be an athlete forever. And then he said, in the sport of boxing, is like, you don't want to be an athlete forever in boxing, especially the stuff that we put our bodies through. And I was like, the more I thought about that, I was like, yeah, right. So every time I say to a lot of people that if I take a break from boxing, it's a permanent break. It won't be a temporary, especially because I started a little bit later. So I say to them, like, it's going to be permanent. Like, if I take a break, I'm done. I'm not just going to have a comeback or anything like that. And his words kind of just reigned very true to me. It's like, well, yeah, you can only be an athlete for so long, so you might as well do that now. You can do other things and chase other dreams that aren't age dependent later on, which I was like, wow, that's such a different way to look at it.
And then as a boxer and sort of making that leap into fighting for money and professionalism and all that sort of stuff, where are you on that path? And I suppose in regards to where you want to be, and so maybe if you're a goal setter, where there's something that you're looking forward to in the future.
One of the so I've started in the professionals, even though I had a lot of fights. My years in the ring haven't been long, so it's like learning on the go. Like I said, I've only been doing this for 6 years, and I've had probably spent about 3.5 of those years in the amateurs, and then converted over to the professional scene. I still feel that I've got plenty of time up my sleeve. I do have a timeline where I would like to go no more at a certain point in my life. So in my eyes, it's like I'm just going to go hell for leather and learn and grow as much as I personally can in this period. And the ultimate goal is to become a world champion. So where I am right now with my team and I would discuss to drop it down in weight division. So it gives me a better chance.
And Connie, when people have been in boxing for a long time and then maybe they've been in the industry for 10 or 20 years, they say, oh, you've only been in it for 6 years. You don't know what you're doing. Have you heard that before?
No, oddly enough. I don't, I've never been told that, to be honest. But it's definitely, I pay homage to the people who have spent a long time in the sport and still doing it. It's great to see. I don't tend to do that. I don't like I said, I started at 32. I don't want to be spending, 20 years in the sport and be like, yeah, I finally reached my goals. I can retire now. It's not something that I would like to do.
And starting late and at age 32, there's obviously people that have supported you through your life, but now you're into the professional era of boxing. Can you talk about that support crew, the people that have invested time, the people that have invested effort into you, and how much they mean to you?
Yeah, very much so. I have a very, very small niche of people that have supported me from the beginning. Probably to my own fault, because I kind of kept it very quiet. I think I boxed for maybe 2.5 years without telling my friends. And then when I became professional, one of the big things when you become professional is obviously you need a fan base. And so then I started telling my friends, and they're like, "What? You've been boxing?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I've been doing." And I tried for the Australian team, didn't quite get there. They're like, "What do you mean you did all this?" So it was a bit of a surprise to them. So my group of people that I do have is very small, but I trust them. I trust them very much so with everything that I need to do to get me to fights and everything like that. So they are a very trusted group that support me as well.
Do they bring you back to earth sometimes, a leveler? Like if you do, when the result doesn't go your way, and then there's something outside that sort of breaks the curve, and you're like, okay, it's not, you're not on the operating table, you're not dying, but let's get back up and going again.
Sometimes, but a lot of times I pull myself out of that one. When the results haven't gone the way I'd like to, there is I give myself a period to have a pity party. I remember my very first fight I had, professional fight.
Is that a phrase that you made up, or is that just a probably common phrase in the boxing world? Because it's a pretty cool phrase.
What's that?
The pity party.
No, I don't know where it came from, but I remember it was my first fight that I had, professional fight, and when I stepped in the ring, I was like, oh wow, this feels amazing. Like I feel like I'm at home. Like I wasn't nervous. It just like felt so grounded. I was like, oh, this is great. I fought. I thought I fought well. Clearly, I didn't. And I lost the fight. Straight after that, I went up to Toowoomba to see one of my teammates compete in a professional fight as well, because we both competed on the same night. And I stayed there that night with him, and because it was just go from my fight straight through to his, get him ready for his without putting my stuff onto him. I was driving home from Toowoomba, and I'm like, okay. I was so annoyed and upset about my fight that I was like, right, I'm going to give myself until I get home. Like, it was a 2-hour drive, so I was like, until I get home, I can cry, I can, do whatever I want, scream, curse, and just have it all out until I get home. But as soon as I drive up my driveway, step out of my car, it's done. Like, it's over. Like, that's it. That's time to move on. And I think I lasted probably maybe an hour. And then I was like, okay, I'm over it now. Like, let's go. So I do give myself, I know that if I sit and wallow, then it's not actually benefiting where I want to go. So there are periods where it's gone more than an hour. Sometimes it's gone for like days, weeks, and then I'm like, okay, this isn't progressive. Like once I get to a point where I'm like, I'm sick of listening to myself, then I'm like, okay, I'm done. Let's put this to bed and then move on.
Yeah, from the athletes that I've interviewed, there's a very, it is an incredible skill to sort of move on, because there's such heartbreak and there's a lot of preparation, there's emotional energy into something and it doesn't go your way. And then, to last an hour after one particular fight is amazing. And then you did mention that there is days and weeks. So I'm curious to know that, do you think you are a resilient person? Do you think you're a lifelong learner, and you think, think shit happens, but let's move on?
To a degree, yes. Resilience, yes, because I probably wouldn't be here if I wasn't resilient. I had a period where it was, I think it was like 18 months, and I had 4 fights, 4 losses. Like, if I wasn't resilient, I wouldn't be here still doing the sport. Yep. So it does take its toll, because even though I have my team, I have my support crew, at the end of the day, or at any time, I'm alone with my own thoughts. So even though, yes, I am very much grateful for my team, my teammates, and my support crew, but the only person that's only in my head is me. So there is certain points where I've learned that, the only person that can get me out of my own rut is myself. Like, it doesn't matter. I could have like the best, like, the hype person next to me, but unless I pull myself out of that, it doesn't matter what that hype person is, just words out of their mouth.
And contrary to the pity party, when you prepare well for a fight and you win a fight and you feel like you've boxed well, do you have a moment of like reflection and pause and say, that was good?
Probably not often enough. I remember when I won the WBL title in Sydney, I remember I put my belt next to, because I was away from home, so that I was staying in a hotel, and I remember putting my belt next to my bed, because it's a big queen bed, and I put it on one side and I slept, and I was like, oh, that's kind of pretty cool. And then the next morning I woke up, jumped on a plane. So I would cherish the moment, but probably not as much as I criticize myself. So that's something that I'm definitely working on, because the balance it's not balanced at all. It's very skewed one way over the other.
It's a pretty personal question coming up. Do you find that you are too critical on yourself?
Oh, definitely. That's something that, like, when I make errors or mistake, essentially it is abuse that I hurl towards myself is something I would never vocalize to another human being, which probably is not very kind to myself, but yeah, that's something that I'll have to really work on, because I am my own hardest critic, and I always thought that if I'm not critical of myself, who else is going to be to then propel me forward to where I need to be, because they're my goals essentially.
Yeah, and those goals, are they? There's a big, hairy, audacious goal to be world champion, but in between that, do you set sort of weekly goals, monthly goals, or fight by fight?
The fight game's a little bit different to other sports because as a professional, if there's no opponents asking for fights, I don't have a fight. If there's no promoter that's putting show on, that can fit me on their show, then I don't get a fight. So it's very dependent. I do have goals for the year. I set out goals for the whole year. I set out goals to get to that world title, like where I'd like to be. And it's one thing that I've learned. I don't write them down in permanent marker. Essentially, it's always in pencil because things can shift and change.
Yep.
Like I was supposed to end of last year. I was supposed to have a fight, and it was scheduled in September. And then my team had organised for me to have another fight in, I think it was end of October. So that was a decent amount of time. It was 6 weeks turnaround. But then the fight that I had that was supposed to be in September got shifted to October, like middle of October. So I didn't have that same, so I didn't get to have another fight before the end of the year. So if I had banked that, this is what I really wanted to, and then that was a fight that I could potentially have got like a title, then essentially I would have been disappointed. So it's like I know that fights can come and go, and I think during the year, maybe the year of COVID, I was supposed to have my first pro fight in March, but then everything got shut down and delayed. So I kept having fights. Yep, we'll have a fight, and then it got cancelled. Fight cancelled. Fight cancelled. So these things happen because the other athletes, they might get injured, or something might have happened where they've had to pull out of a fight. So nothing's ever really set in stone.
I'm curious to know about what you think you're really good at compared to your opponents for you to be the world champion. What is it in Connie Chan that could make her a world champion?
I guess that resilience is that constant work to just improve, just to constantly improve, and always know that I know that I've never been blessed with like skill or talent. So it's just that sheer hard work. It's like I will outwork as much as I can. And knowing that at the end of the day, even if I'm not in it, it's like I'll actually surprise them because I'll be closer to being in the game than what my opponents would anticipate me to be.
And then, being a professional boxer, and you've got younger people coming through and playing sport, not necessarily boxing, but what's some advice to them? Because you did take up the sport at 32, as you mentioned, and now you're finding your feet, you're in the zone. But people that are 12, 15 playing sport out there, what's some advice you'd like to give to them?
It would definitely be, if you've got a passion for something and you have a dream, just go hard. Just go hard at it. Don't waver from it. If like I always I do a lot of self-reflection, especially after wins and definitely after losses. I'll take the time and put my hand on my heart and just like breathe and just ground myself, and then I'll always ask myself the question like, do you still want to do this? And or like if it comes back like a little bit, it wasn't a definitive like yes or no, then I'll be like, is it time to hang the gloves up? And even now when I say it to you, like there's little voices like, no, like it's not time yet. So that's one thing. It's like, listen to yourself rather than other people. I know that if I'd listened to other people, when I tore my rotator cuff, and if I went down the surgery route and everything like that, I would have been out of the sport for close to about 9 months before I could actually compete. Like at least 6 months before I could actually do what I wanted to do that way. But I decided to go against that and be like, no, my shoulder's fine. I will, and I had some good people around me to work with me to go, well, based on a feel. And then within 4 months after I'd done it, I had a fight. So it's little things like that. It's like there's many people that are willing to put their opinions, and no matter how well-meaning they might be, it's at the end of the day, it's just their opinion. Like, as long as your opinion of yourself is like, I can do this, then why can't you? That's the way I think of it, is like, there's so many people in this world. Someone has to be a world champion, so why not me? Like, why can't it be me?
That's a really good way of putting it. A couple more questions. One, do you love boxing?
Love is a very strong word. I think it's like I enjoy it a lot, like, and I enjoy the aspects of it, like so much. But to say you love something, that's very strong for me. Like to actually go, oh, when you love, you essentially do anything for the sport. Like I do anything to get where I need to get to. But if it came to like, okay, you either box or it's your life, then I'll be like, well, okay, maybe I might not. Like, if they said, hey, like I knew one of the girls, she had a brain bleed. It's one of those things where I've known there's a boxer that we may know that went in there when his brain wasn't right to box because he loved the sport so much and he passed away. And it's like, well, no, I probably wouldn't do that. So I enjoy boxing so much because there's so many different aspects to it to like learn and grow, not only from an athletic point of view, but from a personal growth point of view. One of the first personal growth experiences I had was I was supposed to, I think it was in my second or third fight, I was sent as part of a team and I was to fight the Commonwealth Games bronze medalist. And I was packing, I was like so scared. And then my coach had said something. And then I remember sitting in the front of my house and I was just thinking about the fight. And then next thing you know, I was like, oh, I got a pain in my chest. I was like, oh, what is this? Like, I tried to breathe, to calm and everything. I didn't. So I rang up my high performance coach at the time and I was like, what should I do? Like, this isn't, I'm supposed to fly out in like a day. I'm like, what's going on? She goes, oh, you're just having a panic attack. I'm like, what? Like, I do not have panic attacks. Like, what the heck is this? And then she explained it, and it was based off a thought that created this. And I was like, that's incredible. Like, there was no physical threat that I could see, but it was just a thought, and it had conjured up all these like elements within me. Like, my heart was racing. I like couldn't breathe properly. I was like, wow, like if that's just from a thought, if I can learn to master this is going to be powerful throughout my whole life, not just within the sport. So I think through that that one experience, I was like, well, wonder what else this sport can teach me, and as a person, not just from like the athlete side.
That's a very good reflection of, and certainly the intertwining of sport and life. And I suppose the final question that I have is the reason I do Scoreboard, the podcast, is to understand how athletes define their own success on and off the court or the ring or the pool or whatever it might be. I'm interested to know how you define your own success.
It's to define success for me it's very personal. It's whether or not I'm proud of what I have achieved. Like I look back at what I've done so far and I sometimes shock myself. It's like, whoa, like you're a professional boxer. Like, holy smokes. Like, especially when I've got like fights coming up, it's like, you're going to step in the ring in like 3-6 weeks time. Like, ask me 5 years ago, was this what I was going to do? And I would have laughed. I would have been like, no chance. Like, no way would I have gone professional. Or ask me 10 years ago, would you be a professional athlete? Like, would this be something that you would be looking at? I'm like, no. Or, like, especially boxing. If you said to me 10 years ago, Connie, I see you being a boxer and you would have done this, and this, and I'd be like, no chance. I don't want to do that. So it's kind of like, wow, I've done it this way. And as long as I'm respectful, like in my eyes, is respectful to like my opponent in the sport and the people around me, and I'm also giving back to help other people within the sport, then to me that is my version of success.
And Connie, on that note, that fantastic note, we're going to leave it there. But thank you so much for giving us an insight into your life behind the scenes as a professional boxer, and congratulations on what you've done so far. You should be very proud, by the way, of where you've come from, and certainly where you're going to next year, and looking forward to catching up and following your progress.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.